Alright, making a video. Not too many people are going to like this one probably, but it doesn't matter. I just make arguments on the internet. So Metamorph was in this room by this anti-Gaia person, who generally speaking I had a positive impression of before. Yeah, maybe not now. I don't even get the creation of 12-hour rooms and just babbling incessantly for hours and mumbling, and I just don't see the point in it. It's not very well filtered or maximized content production, especially when these are the very people who are critiquing my performance as being something less than brilliant, which is really irritating. So yeah, I just don't even, the first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to try not to use the word antinatalism, or in any way have myself included as being part of the anti-natalist community, because most of them, in my opinion, are idiots. Yeah, sorry. They really don't understand. They think the earth will be just fine with a bunch of animals on it torturing each other. No, it won't be just fine. At all. They don't get that the problem with life isn't that humans do it badly. It's that it can't be done well. You can't consume and die well. You just can't do it comfortably. People can't live on yachts and drink champagne unless somebody else is not on a yacht drinking champagne, but doing something probably unpleasant, like making the champagne and making the yacht and you know, all that kind of crap, cleaning up all the pollution and whatnot. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, you know, anti-natalism. I mean, human reproduction is not really the problem on Earth. And Metamorph, who's known on this subject as a known character, he thinks the most of the suffering on Earth is human. He thinks that somehow because we can recite Shakespeare or something, or I can make these sentences, that somehow I feel more. That if you smash my hand with a hammer, or you smash a gorilla's hand with a hammer, somehow you've made it's a hugely different event somehow. And I say bullshit. You see psychosis in animals, like in zoos. People bring this up, you know, in the old days anyway. New zoos aren't so bad, but you'd have the panther walking back and forth, or you know, it happened to polar bears too. You know, different animals, you know, doing the neurotic pacing, and we see humans that have a syndrome, psychology. They'll do that, and they're in the nut house. Do they really? Does Metamorph really think the angst and torment, trouble, the anxiety the organism is feeling is somehow different because it's some other mammal with a slightly different genetic code? You know, okay. I mean, this is an argument I'm making. What evidence is there that sensation has something to do with intelligence? I mean, high intelligence. There's absolutely no evidence, in my opinion. You can't find any evidence to demonstrate that sensation cares about how intelligent you are. That the capacity to feel was something that happened a long time ago in evolutionary history. And the fact is that doing our thinking thing might make us less sensitive. We might have sacrificed, we have dulled our senses, dulled our sense of smell, dulled our sense of taste, let's say, to be able to do this vocabulary thing and to compose sentences in language and communicate with language. We might be a lot duller as a sensual organism than the rest of the little beasties running around. There's no evidence, in my opinion, otherwise. There's no evidence of any correlation between depth or intensity of sensation and being able to do algebra. None. Zero. Okay. So this is being a clown. You know, this is by Metamorphs. A sideshow. This is a sideshow. These videos are sideshow videos. So it's another element of this is that these people who expect some academic conversation about something like torture, like you really would have the fair expectation that you know there's Jews in the concentration camp, and you're going to have a conversation with the commandant or with Adolf himself, and you're just going to, you know, have some sort of academic conversation, you know, about what's going on. You know, you're not going to. There's no reason to think it's important, and so when they say something glib and nihilistic and dismissive, no reason for offense, no reason for any kind of emotional reaction, acknowledging the fact that this guy is basically advocating the torture of somebody. That shouldn't bother you as a conversation. I think it should bother you, frankly. I think if your brain is working properly, you should be bothered. Yeah. To have that conversation dispassionately, I think would be kind of insane, actually, factually. If you really give a damn, you know, I just don't think you can have it as an academic conversation. I just don't think it's possible, as a practical matter. Unless you're taking some kind of drug, you know, to just kind of mellow you out. Somebody could theoretically be highly disciplined, I suppose, and, you know, just be like a professional negotiator or something. But I don't see any of them on YouTube. Anyway, so I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to apologize for my passion. No, I'm not going to do that. No. Fuck that. So anyway, I'll play some of this. But I will also make he made some cracks about the physics thing, so I'll play the part here, and then I'm going to critique the video. He earlier in this conversation, he recommended a video to somebody else on physics. And, you know, Sean Carroll and the Green guy, Brian Greene, and just horrible. I mean, I've already done this video, but I'm going to do it again, especially the introduction, because it's just so bad. And he has this, you know, does this whole spiel about how these guys are just so hardworking and so smart and so blah, 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 and it's, no, they're lazy and they're full of shit. Somebody ought to call it shit, because it's shit. It's not good physics. It's not good science. They're pseudo-scientists because they can't accurately describe their own science. And that's kind of criminal. You know, especially when you're making up multiverses over it. Especially when you're using your mischaracterization of reality to find an excuse to make multiverses. Yeah, that's bogus. That's what that is. Alright, what else did I want to get to? But yeah, I'm done with this anti-natalist shit. I'm an ethicist. And that's all. I'll use that word till somebody comes up with a better word for an extinctionist. That's a pretty good word too. But yeah, I think everything should, as soon as possible and as gracefully as possible, go extinct. Because there's no form of life that is reasonably efficient. It's all unreasonably too expensive for the nonsense that it is, which is build a hill, fall down the hill. Build a hill, fall down a hill. It's just stupid. Make a need that doesn't need to exist so you can satisfy it in some silly way. Make a whip so you can create a shield against the whip. It doesn't make any sense. Just stop making the whip. Stop making shit, and then you don't have to clean it up. Not complicated. Really isn't complicated. Alright. So, this anti-guy, anyway, so he does this room, and he's just, one guy in there was okay, Jason guy, yeah, okay. Then this stupid other fucktard, this free radio guy, was really so irritating. So he was harassing Metamorph over the fact that he had kids in his previous life, so to speak. And he just kept badgering him, and you're just saying, what's the fucking point of this, you retard? I mean, I wasn't a vegetarian until I was like 17 or 18. Does that mean I can't become a vegetarian because I wasn't one earlier? At some other point in my life I wasn't a vegetarian and therefore I can't be a vegetarian? That's essentially his argument, right? Because if you had kids in your past, that means you can't be an antinatalist. Or even if you accidentally get a woman pregnant tomorrow, somehow you can't be an antinatalist. It's a ludicrously stupid argument. You can understand that eating meat is wrong, that it's causing harm, and you can still eat meat because you can say, I'm addicted. It's not a hypocrisy. As long as you're acknowledging your behavior is wrong, there's no problem. And this asshole just kept badgering him like there's a problem. He's made a video, I haven't played it yet, but he's an idiot. Yeah. And then he just started doing all this whining about how, well, you can't ever change anything and nothing ever blah, 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 and all this whining. Again, the statistical truth of the world as it is that we know that the more intelligent somebody is, the less likely they are to have kids. And that most people right now in Western civilization aren't having kids sufficient to maintain human existence. Most people. 80%. And it's only a small percentage of the human race that's creating all of the growth in population. So it's just a matter of getting the 80%, or some percentage of the 80%, 60% of the 80%, to acknowledge a responsibility to shove a cork in the morons, to stop the 20% from acting irresponsibly, to stop welfare whores and all the rest of these jackasses who think I'm allowed to be a reckless pig and make you pay for it. I mean, there's not only economically rational reasons to stop welfare whores, there's this fact that you don't want them raising the next generation anyway. You don't want the next generation of the human race to be raised in ignorance and squalor. That's stupid. Raised by idiots, to boot. So there's lots of, you don't even have to be an antinatalist to recognize this is a train wreck. You might as well just start sawing through all the axles on the train. I mean, you're just asking for idiocracy. So this isn't even a hard argument to make. And these feudalist, fatalist, pussy shits who don't do anything except whine about their lack of popularity. I mean, yeah, it's like 5 times in one video I gotta listen to some asshole whine about, oh, I've been on YouTube for 18 million years and I only got 38 subscribers. Well, maybe you suck. You know, he wasn't that bad looking, so I guess he's not that because he's butt ugly or something. So I guess it's the crap coming out of your mouth that's pretty unfucking appealing. I guess nobody likes you because you're a jackass. An arrogant jackass. I mean, he's talking about Metamorph, and he doesn't even watch his videos. He doesn't know anything about his history, and yet he's talking about him like he knows something about him. So somebody who's actually written a book and earned his right to speak, in a sense, some sort of credential, deserves some merit, some measure of popularity. He doesn't even watch their videos. So he wants to be popular. Do you want to be popular in the same way where people don't even watch your videos? I mean, so yeah, I hope you gain that kind of popularity where people know you exist but never pay any attention to anything you say. How's that? Is that brilliant? Yeah, fuck you. Anyway, I'm a jerk. Alright, so I guess I'll just play some of this. I don't know if there's much else I have to say. But yeah, I mean, there has to be some way to say this anti-life thing in some kind of, you know, I mean, anti-life. I mean, that's sort of what it is for me. I mean, there's no package you could put life in where it could ever make any sense. Even the virtual reality is still, you still have to make the concession that would you actually create a new human? Like, say for us, it would be a picnic, because we've already done the suffering. We already have the context of understanding of pain, and so we know what pleasure is. But would you really bother creating a new human being and depriving it so that it could be hungry and want to chase the virtual pussy in the virtual world? I mean, you have to starve it first to make it hungry. You have to deprive it to make it need and want. Would there be any point in imposing that deprivation, you know, to create the context of a desire that's manufactured out of a previous longing or absence? And let's not pretend you don't need that. You do need that. You need something to irritate us, you know, to give us the, look, the thorn has to go in before you can feel the pleasure of its removal. And that's what your maturation is a bunch of thorns going into your character and personality. And some of those thorns you're never going to remove. Some of those irritations will exist forever. And you'll only get a glimmer of what it's like not to have them when you sneeze or something. And the system has to reboot for a second, a little bit of an orgasm, a little bit of a reboot, and you realize, oh, that's what it feels like not to have those thorns in my face. But that's how the game works. It's not a positive game, it's a negative game. You're fixing a broken that should have never been created. You don't create broken. You don't create something less than euphoria so something can want euphoria. I mean, it's just stupid. It's very stupid as a reasoning product. You can't make that reasonable, making desire, creating it where it doesn't exist, making the hungry thing so you can feed it porridge and gruel and mediocrity, mostly. Alright. Yeah, that's probably, now we can play a little bit of this crap. So yeah, you know, the whole live room thing, I just don't see any point in unless you're going to do this in some sort of scheduled, productive way, but having the same introductory conversations over and over again. I say, well, fuck that. And especially when it's 8 or 10 hours of this drivel that's totally, you're going to have to index it or something. If you're going to bother doing rooms like this, then you're going to have to highlight the parts that are might be worth listening to. Might be. But in my opinion, there's been very little gold in public rooms. In my opinion.
Are really kind of, I mean, some of these guys are kind of like really toxic loudmouths about it, and not just in antinatalism, but in atheism, for instance. There's a good example too. It's just that you can start to look like a joke to everybody.
Yeah. You mean your club of people or something? So why don't you use a real example? You can start to look like a joke. Like what, Brett Keane? Yeah, well, he looks like a joke because he doesn't believe in anything. But you want to point to somebody? Coward?
Yeah, definitely.
People can see you out, and I mean, if you're acting like a 5-year-old clown, I mean, it's.
Yeah, and the example of that would be what? Oh, you mean if you aren't a nihilist like me and don't really give a shit one way or the other, but you can't figure out that anything matters? Oh. See, you know, this guy actually believes that there isn't any real value, that we're just projecting some sort of morality, and that it's not consequential, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah, sorry. I can figure out from the personal experiment I've done with consciousness, this little personal experiment with consciousness, I can figure out that there's a cavern of value difference between feeling good and feeling bad. It's a cavern of value difference. You're saying that that's an illusion, that that difference doesn't really exist, and your evidence is yeah, there doesn't exist, your evidence.
Kind of hard to garner respect, and it's hard to get people to listen further.
Yeah, it says you, but whatever. Pussy, 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 bok, 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 bok. It's all chicken shit bullshit. Clearly, in my opinion. I mean, I can't make it easier. You know, I'll do public rooms. I'll make a video. I'll say it stuff directly. You just quote the buffoon or the asshole. You quote him and you say, gee, that's a stupid quote. And you point out why it's stupid. Like I'm doing with you. These are quotes you're making. And so I'm taking your quote and I'm saying, well, that's what he thinks. Gee, that's really stupid. And I'll point out why.
Yeah. On the other hand...
Yeah, I just don't have any use for this. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's basically talking about me. Right? And this guy's just saying, yeah. Well, fuck you.
Some people like clowns. Yeah. In the end,
Yeah. And some people like what? Wishy-washy, mishy-mushy gobbledygook shoved up their ass because it's slimy and, you know, it's easier to get the jelly beans up that way.
I don't think there's any perfect way to communicate, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, that's not what you just said, so I guess you're not saying that. Because that's not what you just said. You called it a joke. You called it a sideshow. I mean, those kind of words kind of indicate something less than a perfect way to communicate. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Yeah, brilliant again. Thanks for that contribution. Yeah. Kinda, yeah. Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Just too much variance in the audience in terms of what they're attracted to. So,
yeah, technical difficulties here. I don't know how it got back to 6:11. I didn't want to go back that far. So yeah, we have.
Hello? I'm sorry. I think I'm losing you a little bit.
Yeah, I think you are.
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. I was just saying. Yeah, it's there's always going to be a variance in the audience, so different approaches are always going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what approach on a subject like the meaning of life, besides an approach that has something to do with an argument you're making, defending a position that's either rational or irrational. So Metamorph, you know, on the subject of physics, he thinks this multiverse thing is, oh yeah, that's going somewhere. You know, that's the Sean Carroll thing.
I'm not the kind of person that really likes a sideshow.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather just have people communicate and try to get the most out of when they come together to talk about these kinds of things. I'm not...
Right, and somebody else's ambition is different. This is a sideshow. I'm trying to do something other than that. Other than hear what their argument is and say, well, gee, that's not really a premise for a rational conversation. And that's sort of where our disconnect between me and Metamorph happened, was over the fact that, yeah, he doesn't think animals feel substantially, which is idiotic, and he doesn't have any science to back that up. And second, he doesn't care anyway, because he doesn't think there's real value involved in sensation anyway. He thinks we just think there's a difference between feeling good and feeling bad. there's not really a difference. So in the end, it doesn't matter how many people you burn to death, because somehow burning to death alive and all that kind of stuff and all the suffering and blah 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 wasn't really a bad thing. Absolutely. And I think the evidence is quite conclusive. Like I said, I'm doing the experiment. I really can't imagine how you're ever going to unwind the difference between feeling good and feeling bad and say they're not what they seem to be, which is good and bad. Well, I think they are what they seem to be.
The kind of person who puts much value on a lot of hand waving and a lot of loud noise. But, you know, I'm just...
Yeah, that's because you're a glib motherfucking nihilist pig fucking head. You know, guys, yeah. I mean, it's all fine. Yes, if you don't really think there's any crisis happening, then yeah, that's really easy to do. If they aren't real victims, if it's all just a video game, I don't get upset watching video games. I really don't. Couldn't care less. I laugh at the horror in a video game because, yes, it's not real horror. But the shit happening on this planet ain't a video game, fuckhead.
One person, and everybody is different. And some people are attracted to big personalities.
Again, all this talk about some kind of personality thing being the issue, and I really just don't see how it's relevant. I'm saying things. There's words that come out of my mouth. You can either argue them or you can choose to run away. But that's it. You don't have to argue with my personality. You can just argue with my quotes. And I don't see that happening. So what's the problem?
So you know, I don't bode them any ill. That's just not for me.
Whatever that means. And concession, yes, it's not for me to be part of a club that is wishy-washy and basically irrational. Let's kill all the humans. So only the gorillas and the chimpanzees and the other, great apes are doing the kind of humanist kind of suffering. But I guess they don't think those are even those brains aren't doing anything significant, I suppose. That's what they think. Shit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, great.
So you said you're kind of tired of making the same argument over and over again. It kind of seems like Gary's at that point too right now.
And what point are you at? You've just started, and what have you done that isn't the same shit all over again? What vital, interesting contribution have you made? Oh, that's right, absolutely none. And instead of me, which at least I try to put these things in at least concise packages with some kind of label, unlike that, you make 12-hour videos, well, this one's 8, full of all kinds of mush. Let's talk about pot and mushrooms. Ever do shrooms or blah, 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 blah. So that, of course, is so much more vital than what I'm doing. Fail. Anti-Gaia, you're failing.
Most of the videos he's doing now are on physics.
It's not even true, realistically, I don't think. I mean, if you measure the amount of videos, there's some weeks I do more physics, and there's some weeks I do more other stuff. But they're all relevant to sentient organisms on Earth.
And, like, the objective value stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, objective value stuff. Like, that has nothing to do with extinction. Like, the value stuff would have nothing to do with some reasoning you might have for extincting something. I think value equations might have something to do with that. Yeah, I think they might. Fuck.
Yeah.
I know.
mostly in response to Hype-Day and On Account of Love.
Yeah, and what are you doing? And who else is doing anything else? Who is producing anything on YouTube? Who is producing anything? What, am I supposed to go to Facebook or something? Is there something exciting happening on Facebook? Then why are you doing this stupid room, you stupid cunt? I mean, what is this bitching? Oh, fuck. I mean, the fact that you have to keep putting things in other words, is because they're not getting it, retard. Quite obviously. What, you think I'm making holiday videos because I enjoy it, you stupid cunt? Why don't you do it, shithead? Why don't you do it to this asshole? Why don't you argue the nihilist position? Because guess what? It's on the other side of your position, jackass. Why don't you take care of some of this business, fuckhead?
Well, I don't know. I'm not. I don't. Again, some people get a lot of energy off just responding to people and fighting with people all the time.
Yeah, whatever. Obviously, I don't get any energy off of this shit. It's terribly tedious and annoying. But Adolf Hitler is real. They exist, okay? The Mussolini and the Hitler and the Schwarzenegger or whatever the fuck it is, they all exist. And you have to fight with them because they're the ones propagandizing against your theory. They're the ones in the fucking goddamn way. They're the ones mocking you or calling you laughable or a joke or blah blah or sideshow or all this other kind of bullshit. So why don't you just pretend the opposition doesn't exist? Well, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just not one of those kind of people. To me, it turns me off. But for other people, get a lot.
Yeah, whatever that means. What turns you on is what? Just telling little Three Bear stories. Okay, got it.
A lot of energy from that. So who am I to say? The physics thing is just. I really can't say much about that.
Well, I really can't say much about how. Like, you have some right to laugh or mock. You can't say much about it, yet you can be mocking in your tone, right? I'm not missing something, right? I mean, that was like a mockish giggle, like, oh, gee, it's such a joke. So what, are you going to give me permission to properly shove this crap back up your ass eventually? I have your permission, right? I mean, when we find out that you were the mockable one, I will have permission to shove that video right the fuck up your ass, right? This video here, I can shove it right the fuck back up your ass later, right?
Only because
I don't know.
I'm a huge physics fan.
Which I don't even know if that's a reasonable thing for anybody who's a huge physics fan to even say, right? I really like the truth in science. Well, that might be a good idea. But physics fan? It sounds like you're just a fan of little twatty, nerdy fucktards who can't do science worth shit. But they can, they're very animated. They have a lot of personality. Is that what matters? Physics with personality?
And I have a lot of physics history behind me.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering. Because I don't think you understand the concept of how you acquire knowledge of physical reality. And I guess that's having knowledge of the experiments that have been done. And you can acquire that knowledge without ever going to college.
And I hate this. It's not something you can just see off the top of your head, and a lot of people want it.
See, so he's not going to imply that I just did it off the top of my head, and that I didn't spend the last 5 years really kind of taking all of my free time. All my dinners were with physics. I ate dinner with physics every night for 5 years, just about. So I've sort of earned it. It's not off the top of my fucking head, cunt. And what was on the top of my head was, yes, realizing photons reading my mind. Yeah, well, that sounds like a big pile of shit. Yeah, that was off the top of my head.
To just be something simple. They want to equate everything.
Multiverse. Yeah, that sounds like a big pile of shit. You want to solve a flaw in your equation and you have to create multiple universes to do it? That sounds like shit.
With ping pong balls bouncing off each other, and that's
again. So another trivial dismissal. The same trivial dismissal that happened 300 years ago, and then it happened again 200 years ago, and then it happened 100 years ago, and physics is still clueless because of that very trivial dismissal. So bravo. It is ping pong balls, quote unquote. That's what forces are made out of. Little bits.
It's just not the way that it works.
Says you, the authority, and you've demonstrated your knowledge of the subject by recommending a video that is a steaming pile of crap. And I'm going to demonstrate what a steaming pile of crap it is. And are you going to defend it? Are you going to explain how it's not a steaming pile of crap? I don't think you have the balls.
And nobody's going to be handing out Nobel Prizes to any of us people in the peanut gallery. I mean,
yes, people in the peanut gallery. And again, how do you get in the peanut gallery? By watching physics lectures? I've had more advantage than Einstein. I've probably had a better physics education than Einstein got, technically. Certainly it's in the context of much more information is available now than in Einstein's youth. And clearly, he just didn't have the option to watch MIT lectures and Yale lectures and Stanford lectures. So, I'm probably more, in some respects, more knowledgeable about a range of mechanical and energy dynamics than Einstein was when he was sitting in a patent office in the peanut gallery.
There are people who are spending their lives learning of maybe one of the most difficult subjects that you could possibly attack.
Right, and it's difficult. Why? Because they have always, chosen badly. Because they have it wrong. You know why it's difficult? Is because they have a bunch of wrong premises and they're never going to make those premises right. So it's like doing the evolution thing and then saying, oh yeah, well I like this idea that the giraffe's neck gets longer because it wills it to get longer. And so then you use that as a fact. That's how chromosomes work, is that when you will, your chromosomes change. And then they find out, oh fuck, there's absolutely no evidence of any of that shit happening. Well, we'll just create dark chromosomes. And the dark chromosomes are invisible, and they sneak up to the other chromosomes and exchange the information, and so therefore what you think ends up changing your chromosomes. Even though there's no physical evidence of it happening, it really does happen because the dark chromosomes do it. Yeah, that's physics. Mocked properly.
Approach is theoretical physics, especially the theoretical side of it. And
yeah, whatever, especially the theoretical side of it. It's just a description of reality. You're attempting to describe reality. They've described reality as some kind of funky, oh, this does this-y, and that does that-y, and it's all this-y and that-y, instead of anything that has any kind of nailed-downable character. Empty space tells matter what to do, and then the matter tells the empty space how to readjust itself. How convenient.
And I have a lot of respect for those guys, and
Right, for what reason? That's all I want to know. Why do you respect them? Because they can't describe the two-slit experiment properly or in context? What were you respecting them for? Getting their basic physics wrong? Lying about it effectively? Is that respectable?
I listen to what they have to say, and I I've come in, I've really opened up onto some insights as far as field theory.
Right. So yeah. Oh yeah. That's just a great idea. So there's a zillion quanta doing a zillion things in this one piece of paper, and by this brilliant theory, it's creating new zillion universes. So in one universe, this paper waves a tiny bit different, and in the other one, oh, it waves a little tiny bit different, and the other one, a little tiny bit. Fuck you. Fucking stupid.
Everything kind of saturates, and I love the subject, but
I love the subjects, but the great line would be, but it seems kind of incoherent. It seems like they're creating a bunch of contrived things like dark matter merely to fix mathematics that isn't working. Huygens. Let's use this principle to fix things. Yes, of course it's a principle we only use where the math doesn't work. Because if we use it everywhere else, then it'll break all the math. But it's a principle. But it's really not.
I'm not going to come out as some.
Unfortunately, his connection broke.
And I think in studying the stuff, but across as any kind of an expert, I think to do that, you're just being a kind of a fool. You know?
So, yes, right. You're a fool if you watch physics lectures, spend 5 years thinking about a subject, watching every two-slit experiment ever done, just about. You're a fool. Fuck you. You're a fool. You haven't read the paper or the stuff on the website. You can't counter-argue any of it. You're just a pompous, arrogant fan boy of nerdy twats who are pretending to have the key. They have the key to the fucking gas station restroom.
You know?
Yeah,
But
I don't know that much about physics to comment on whether or not Gary's right with this theory or not. I mean, maybe he could be out for all I know. I don't know barely anything about physics, so.
Well, you know enough to diss it as a relevant subject, which I don't see any point in doing that either. But whatever. Fuck you. I think
Yeah, I
that's
think he's
about
cutting
it.
out.
Yes, I think he is. So
Hello?
I don't think there was anything else. Just let it go a little longer in case there was some other little piece
Hello?
of shit stated. But yeah, this isn't great room dynamics, to tell you the truth. I mean, I'd rather be redundant than do this. Hello? 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 Hello?
Yeah, Jim?
This isn't exactly a great use of my time either. I mean, I can't really imagine how I could make a video so redundant or so useless that it would be somehow more useless than this. This is pretty useless. Dum 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 dum.
Hello?
Hello? Hello? Yes, that's
Hello?
redundant. That's redundant. See, you said it already like 5 or 7 times now. That's redundant. Anyway, I guess
Is here.
I guess that's it.
I wonder if it's.
I
is
thought
Sid
there was
still
something
here?
else. I thought there was something else.
Yeah.
I could jump ahead a little. Yeah, it's just mumble, mumble, mumble.
I think it's still a good position to hold intuitively,
Intuitively.
even if it's not logically correct to bridge it.
I don't know what that means.
I mean, to me, it seems like the is-odd gap.
In other words, I'd rather have a society of people
So
who.
now he's doing the is crap. Oh, okay. We is feeling. We ought to feel good. Yeah. Okay, that's tough. Yeah. Oh yeah. What a gap. Anyway, fuck these people. Fuck it. Okay, so enough of that. We're done with it. I don't think I'll be revisiting.
This is what happens in this experiment. Dot by single dot.
Yeah. So we'll get to this. I'll do a physics video on this. But I mean, it's just totally unrepresentative of the reality. This whole, he does 10 minutes of crap on 2 slit. That's before the other assholes even show up. And it's just this huge mischaracterization that these 2 slits have something to do with this pattern. And they don't have a damn thing to do with it. It's exactly the same pattern will show up with a single slit. Clearly it's a surface phenomenon. Newton knew that. That's what it is. Yeah. It's not an interference pattern, it's a diffraction pattern. Idiots. Anyway, till next time. And such. Clearly diffraction can be influenced by interfering forces, but it's not an interference pattern explicitly. It's not even in the right location, for fuck's sake, even the way they do this whole thing. I mean, the wavelength of light is tiny, tiny, tiny. These waves should be so teeny, 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 tiny, they should be a zillion little lines down here. It's just bullshit. It's nothing like water waves. It's the simplest pattern in the universe. On, off, on, off, on, off. I mean, you can't get simpler. For fuck's sake. And their math doesn't even represent it accurately. It doesn't. It thinks these are all, you know, well, I won't go into the difference. I'll wait till the video. Anyway. Fuck. Anyway, until next time. Such. And that's all I got. Yeah, F-list. I am F-list. Fuck antinatalism. The enemy of humans is the least of the Earth's problems.